show them a little bit of love.
Bro, let's go, man. I feel like that's what Kyle does. You're kind of like paying it back now. You know what I mean?
I'm trying, bro. Like I'm trying. I'm obviously not a fucking Kyle Forjar, but you know what I mean. If I can help in any way, man. Like I said, like I was saying to you before, if I can be a part of the journey for somebody and help them progress, whether it's gain 1 subscriber, gain 10, whatever. Like
yeah,
I'm in it.
Boom. We are live. What's up, everybody? Couple Casuals Podcast, episode number 15. I'm your host, Stefano. And I got a fucking banger today for you guys, straight off the press. My buddy, Anthony Sorella.
What's up, man? What's up, bro?
Thanks for coming on, bro.
No,
salute.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Quick salute.
Cheers. Let's get into it. Couple casuals, you know?
Couple casuals with a couple beauties. Listen, a lot of shit going on lately for Ant over here. Straight off the press. Obviously, everybody's seen what happened with the NELK boys and shit.
Yeah,
but
it's pretty cool.
There's a lot going on. I want to get into it, but before we even get into that, bro, I want to start from like the beginning, bro. I want to start from like before, you know what I mean? Because we were just talking before the pod about like, you know, the whole creative approach to things and like being able to collab with people. And big shout out to my buddy Ernesto.
Yes.
So I got to give a big shout out to the legend himself. I'm sure he's down in Miami pacing back and forth waiting for you to come back.
Living the dream, that guy over there, fucking bastard.
He's living the dream. But before we even get into the Miami and everything, I want to ask, like, okay, podcasting in itself. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Were you always a fan of podcasting? Did you always enjoy like listen to podcasting and stuff like that?
Before we started ours,
which, by the way, was like, what, a couple years ago, right?
We're basically 2 years. We've been doing the podcast now. So
fucking moves fast though, bro, eh?
Dude, 2 years. We're over 100 episodes now. Like, it's fucking crazy. Yeah.
Let's go.
What a journey. But yeah, no, I mean, prior to creating ours, man, like, yeah, I watched a few podcasts here and there. I wasn't as into it, obviously, as I am now. But a little bit of Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
A little bit of like some of the Barstool podcasts that they have there.
Which, by the way, they're pretty fucking funny.
Dude, love it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, is like with the neighborhood creative, like that's one of the things that Ernesto is a part of, obviously being the host of Money Buys Happiness, being a creative himself, entrepreneur. What do you consider like the neighborhood creative? Would it be similar to like a Barstool, like a host for talent, a host for creatives?
Yeah, I mean, okay. When we started Neighborhood Creative, initially what it was just a marketing agency. We're full service, so we do everything. Graphic design, web design, social media management, content creation, all that shit.
Yeah.
And then maybe about a year ago, March of last year, at that point, our podcast had already been going and growing, but I had turned to Ernesto and I said, listen, like, I don't think there's anybody in the city that's really trying to build a network of podcasts, similar to Barstool, let's say. And like literally word for word, it's funny you say Barstool.
Bro, because I'm telling you, you guys are obviously doing a great job at that, because when I interpret the company, that's kind of what I feel, bro.
Cool. Okay,
which
good.
is good.
That makes me feel good.
At least I think that's good. I hope that's what you guys are going for, because that's fucking mint, brother.
That was exactly what it was. Like, I word for word said like we should try and become like the Canadian Barstool, in the sense of like, we find talent and we help them grow, right, through our resources. And that pretty much birthed the whole new side of our business, all the podcast management. So now we're managing, I think, just over 12 or 13 podcasts, minus our own. And yeah, we look for talent. Some of them are more clients. Some of them are actually owned by us.
Okay.
Price to Sell is a perfect example.
Yeah, shout out to my buddy Matt.
Yeah, Matt Campoli, legend. We went to him with the idea, and we're like, hey, we want to do a real estate podcast. Yeah. Canada, Toronto doesn't have one. God, you're the guy.
Idea, bro. That idea is amazing, bro.
Yeah, thank you.
Bro, because think about it, like, you look at Instagram every day you see people posting about like the real estate agents pumping because they're on that social media wave now, which it's time, guys. Yeah. It's time. If you're not, you're behind.
True.
So for you guys to think of that, bro, mint idea.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and it was pretty much that, and then we kind of took that and ran with it. At the same time, trying to just push our own podcast and continue to grow that, which is like, can be a fucking full-time job on its own. But we're lucky. Obviously, it kind of goes hand in hand with our business in general. So we're lucky. We're able to kind of leverage our business and our employees there to help us grow our podcast, and then obviously manage the other ones. But it's been a ride, dude. It's been a ride. Yeah. 2 years of just fucking podcasting. It's been great. And then as time went on, obviously, I like to think of things like, if podcasting is my craft, then I need to perfect it, and I need to watch what the greats are doing.
Yes,
and so
let's go.
And so then, you know, that's when I started heavily indulging in podcasts and watching hours and hours, and, you know, just stupid little things on, you know, the way they ask questions, the way they respond to people, stuff like that. And I'm looking at big podcasts who are, you know, guys who have massive guests, right? And how they're handling these guys who are like, you know what I mean? Like, you got fucking Mike Tyson sitting across from you. You know, how are you acting?
Yeah,
what kind of questions?
Because every person you communicate to, you're gonna want to try to pivot differently, right?
Correct.
And I noticed that too. It's funny you say that, bro, and it fires me up because then it recertifies my ideas are going in the right direction, right?
Yeah.
To be able to communicate with another creative and see that, okay, you're kind of in the same alignment in that sense. Because sometimes now I watch interviews and I watch the interviewer.
Yes. Yeah.
Bro,
exactly.
I'm like, yo, okay, like how did he do that? Or maybe if I would have asked that this time, that would have been cool.
Dude, oh man, I look back on so many other podcasts, like being like, fuck, and I'll rewatch our own podcast over and over, and I'm noticing like a part where I could have been like, hey, fuck, if I would have asked this or asked that, or maybe I would have chimed in here, would have been better. But that's the beauty of it, right? It's just the same way like a basketball player goes to practice every day and shoots his jump shot and shoots his fucking 3-pointers over and over and over and over again. For us, it's a mixture of just continuing to shoot our own podcast, but then also studying the game, right? Seeing what these guys are doing and how they're doing and how they got to the point. So that's the fun part about it, I think, is like, I think that's the beauty of it, is if when you finally find something you enjoy doing, buddy, you just want to be
purpose, right?
You want to be fully into it and know as much as you can. So
you're developing a skill set. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
Do you find that every episode and every person that you talk to, you're kind of getting just a little bit better?
Oh,
just a little bit better.
Go back to day one, MBH podcast, the fucking first, I was gonna say first one
with Matt, right?
Bro,
let's go.
Brutal, dude. Brutal.
Bro, it's what it is, though.
No, but you know what? Why I actually,
I don't think it was that. And to be honest, it's not that bad because you know what I mean. Like, first of all, just putting yourself out there like this is a very intimidating thing for most people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very true.
So to be able to start at that level and then be able to, because I think it's the mindset, bro. Mm-hmm. You have to be humble in the sense that you're looking back and you're like, okay, I can do better here. I can fix this. I can fix that. That's what it's about, bro.
I think it's that. You're right. I think it's that. And I think the beauty of also not being afraid of just starting and then look, you know, when you look back a year from now, is that when you have like a new listener, someone comes on and comes across your podcast, however they do, when they then have a chance to look back and see where you came from in the progression, they almost like respect it more, right? Because you're like, damn, this guy's done 100 episodes, and like look at the production value, look at the guests on episode 100 compared to episode 3.
Yeah.
Right. And then they grow a little more like respect for you.
100%.
So that's why I think whether it's podcasting or really anything you do, like, you got to sort of use it as like a thing to document like your journey, and people respect that, right?
100%.
Who you of course, you know, you try to have respect for everybody, but when you're trying to gather or grow your audience, when you can show them where you were a year ago compared to today, it's a lot easier for them to be like, damn, like, okay, I fuck with this guy, like he's grown and he's consistent and he doesn't stop,
and you stuck with it. And I think that's the recipe there. You got to be consistent, and then over time you see the progression within yourself, and it's rewarding, bro. It's a purpose at the end of the day, bro. Because I look back at like some of the things that I've done, I'm like, oh, that's fucking shit, or this and that, but you look at it from a sense of like, I'm learning, I'm getting better. So even I say this all the time. I do this. I enjoy creating, bro. I always have. So for me to look back at this, even like 10 years from now, like, I was the guy with a video camera showing up at parties, bro. Like, I got some shit.
Oh, come on.
I got some shit in the bank, bro. I had to take it down from YouTube now because people got jobs and shit like that. But like, I always enjoyed this shit, and then it trying to transition into the podcasting. But to look back at it, even years later, photos the same way. Yeah. You look at it in a sense of like, wow, okay, that's where I was, but this is where I am. Yeah. I think that could translate to anything, right? It's the same way that, bro, when you start working out and you start taking a picture every time you work out, and then all of a sudden, you know, from the pic you took Wednesday to the pic you took Friday is no difference. But when you look at the pic you took 7 months later compared to the one you took when you first started, you're like, fuck, the growth is holy shit. I see my abs got more fucking defined, and I see my arms got bigger. And it's the same. I think that, you know, that concept can work for anything. Yeah, right? and that's what it does. It translates to anything. It's like anytime you're starting something new, guys, you're gonna be shit at it, man. Like, it's what it is, man. Yeah. You just got to be humble in the sense of sticking with it. If you really care and you really want to improve in that skill set or that craft, it's gonna happen, bro. Yeah. So you weren't even necessarily too much into the podcasting necessarily, but then when you did, you went ass deep. What was that did that idea come about, brother?
Okay. Yeah, great. Okay, so funny. We had the agency and we were doing great. We were about 1 year in, and then boom, pandemic hits. We lost all our clients because we're a marketing agency. Businesses, when they went into lockdown, the first thing they said was like, we got to cut our budgets, and the first thing we're going to cut is marketing, right? No one can even come. So what's the point of having marketing? And we lost all our clients, and
you guys had to pivot big time.
Yeah, we had to pivot, and there was pretty much like maybe a 2-3 week sort of break moment where me and Ernesto were just going into our office and just sitting there and being like, what the fuck are we gonna do?
Bro, that makes the story that much cooler, right?
Yeah, but no one really knows that. Like, we haven't really told it to this extent. And dude, we went weeks and weeks of just sitting there and being like, what the fuck are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. And during that time, we're heavily into like Gary Vee and what the fuck he's been up to and what he's doing. Content? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And dude, he like, honestly, he inspired us to just like try to create more content, please. And then I turned to Ernesto and I'm just like, dude, listen, like, while the world has stopped, everyone has further indulged themselves in social media, further indulge themselves in their phones. So I think this is the time where we got to be on people's phones more than ever. And like, we obviously have to play towards our strengths in terms of like what we're good at and what we're not good at. We're not going to start making prank videos. It doesn't make sense for our business, and B, who we are.
Right.
Let's try something that feels genuine.
Authentic.
Yeah. And that's kind of when the podcast idea came about. I had told Ernesto, I'm like, dude, what if we start a podcast? And he's like, okay, yeah, what the fuck do you want to talk about? What do you think we could talk about? And at that time, specifically, again, marketing agency. So we're like, let's talk about business, entrepreneurship, marketing. So if you go back to our early episodes, they're very heavily focused on that.
100%.
And that was it. We pretty much just like, we're like, okay, fuck it, let's do it with a little bit of money that we had left in the bank account at that time, because the business was still very new. We fucking spent it on equipment. Spent it on Dean.
Was Dean in there? Was he there
Uncle
yet?
Dean since day one. Yeah, he came in. Shout out Dean,
Shout out
guy.
Dean. Let's go.
And we got him. We got the equipment rolling. And we're like, all right, we're just going to try and run this and see what happens. We know that it's not necessarily going to bring us money right off the bat, but it'll bring us more exposure, which we can translate into money through our marketing business, right? Because again, at the end of the day, you had the whole world stop. All these people's marketing budgets stopped. So now you had more eyes on social media, but less content going out. Yeah. So we're like, bro, let's just try and fill that void to whatever extent we can. And then that was the birth of it, bro. And then we just, from the beginning, we always tried to just like, I mean, you're sure you see our podcast. What we tried to do is always just make it about the guest.
Yeah.
So whoever we bring on, we really heavily focus the episode on them.
Mm-hmm. Which rightfully so, right? You're having a guest. You want to be a good host. That's
100%. Yeah. Exactly. And that was that, bro. We just started bringing more people in and leveraging, obviously, I would say more Ernesto's reputation in the city.
Yeah.
The guy's the fucking king of King Street.
Everybody knows my buddy
Everyone
Ernesto.
knows Ernesto. So we used that for leverage and just started bringing in some guests.
Which I think that's actually worth mentioning too, is like, guys, don't burn your bridges. You never know when something can come up, right?
It's true.
And it intertwines perfectly, because I feel like podcasting and these sorts of things it is kind of like an interconnected thing, which I'm sure you can touch on too. Is like, how, obviously everybody is probably tuning in right now because they want to hear a little bit more about the Kyle situation. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it was a building block before I got there, brother.
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean? There's a grind, there's a journey. And I watched the follow-up episode that you guys did. So if you guys want to know about the details in regards to how they got Kyle, go watch their fucking shit. I'll tag everything below. We're going to talk a little bit about the surrounding events about that. But
I can give you the rundown on kind of how that happened.
Yeah. But before we even go there, I want to stick a little bit more like on the podcast. So like Money Buys Happiness, how did you think of the name? Because it's a fucking mint name. The whole branding of it, brother.
Thank you. Okay,
and I gotta give you compliments, by the way, of identifying the everybody's on their phone. Let's fucking jump on this shit now, bro. That's good, man.
Thank you. Yeah, no, you know what? Again, that was just. I think that was a combined effort of me and Ernesto, just being in the office and just having really nothing else but trying to figure out where we were going to pivot.
Yep.
And that's where that kind of came to be in terms of the branding. I mean, at the company, at Neighborhood, that's my department. I handle a lot of branding for clients, anything from a super creative naming, content creation thing. It sort of falls under my wing of the business. So that's, I came up with the name. I knew we wanted to go business first. That was kind of what the idea of the podcast was. And I'm like, fuck, we need something that is super clickbait, something that could maybe get people fired up. And money buys happiness, right? You know, money, you know, people always say money doesn't buy happiness.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that came to mind, right? And
That's intriguing.
Super intriguing. And dude, we had a lot of people tell us like, yo, don't use that name. Like it's too much, like it's too out there, like it's too aggressive.
That's
like,
kind of good though.
Don't do it. But hearing people say that made me realize that we really needed to use it.
Okay.
Because it was doing exactly what I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
Get people fired up.
Yeah, bro.
Whether that be positive or negative, they were talking about it.
It doesn't matter.
See what I'm saying? Exactly. So when I was telling people the name and asking for their opinions, 90% of them were negative. But it wasn't even about whether they liked it or didn't. It was the reaction that I got from them. And when I could see that it sort of like irks them, it like got them, it like hit them hard. I was like, this is the name.
Yes.
This is what we're going to roll with. And then, we put that together and thank God, because now people love the name.
Yeah, even like the money, you have the tat, right? Bro,
yeah, fucking my mom hates me for this.
Does she? Well, you got the other ones too.
Yeah,
so
at this point, it's too late.
But it's sick though.
Yeah.
It's like a sick idea. So,
we went with the Benji, you know, the Benjamin.
Yeah.
Obviously the $100 bill and
With the cash symbol in the middle.
With the cash symbol
Because
in the
I'm
middle.
interested in those kinds of things, like the branding and shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's why I had to ask you about that. I wanted to know about that because that's super interesting.
It was again, like, you know, we looked at it and like the Benji, the Benjamin, that's the classic like rapper money, like rich person thing, right? The Benjis, still the Benjis. And then also the other aspect of it was like, we knew that our goal wasn't to always stay in Canada.
Yeah.
We wanted to eventually expand into the States to whatever extent that would have been.
Right.
So we were just kind of trying to manifest that a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, put the American bill on it instead
Let's
of the
go.
Canadian one.
Okay,
So, it's
so
like,
it goes deep.
It goes deep, man. It goes very deep. And so that's a very brief
Yeah.
way of how we got the brand
100%.
rolling. But yeah, it was a cool experience. And I'm happy that now people fuck with it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that it really translated the way that I wanted it to.
Right. Yeah. 100%. And long may it continue because it's intriguing. Again, the authenticity I think is worth outlining. You guys came in there with like, I want to be authentic. I want to make this as real as possible, and it comes off, and that's big.
Cool.
Because
I'm happy you say that.
Because people appreciate that, bro.
Yeah.
There's a lot, especially with the social media. Like the podcasting world is a little bit inflated now, a little bit, but I still think that we're kind of on the early wave of it.
Very
I think
early.
with the fucking mainstream media and all the fake news and all the bullshit, liberal shit, we're gonna be going into be going into a world where podcasting is gonna be more on demand. So don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. The plug. Get the
Let's
plug.
get the plug. Let's go. Both. I'm gonna plug both of them. Let's go. But then you just mentioned something that I wanted to talk about too. Your transition to Miami, bro.
Yeah.
So how did that come about, and when did that happen, and what was the thought process behind it?
Okay, so even that runs deeper than just like, hey, let's hop on a plane.
Yeah, 100%. Right.
So during the pandemic, the last 2 years since 2020, myself and Ernesto, we make a point of leaving Toronto to go and just see what's going on elsewhere in the world, and also just get away from Toronto. Right? There's something about like when me and him leave, we go into like really heavy work mode. So we
How
had.
did you meet Ernesto? I don't
Yeah. I'll give you the quick one on that. We both in nightlife.
Okay.
Him way bigger than me, way more into it than I was. But we had met through some mutual friends. We started working together a little bit, and the vibes were just immaculate, dude.
Yeah, let's
just
go.
immaculate vibes.
It's a bromance.
It was a fucking bromance. Yeah, no, honestly, bro, it was always like business.
Yeah.
He always saw things the way I did. Our visions were always very aligned in what we wanted. I met him, I think, maybe 6 years ago. So not even too long.
Okay.
We just started working together on a couple projects here and there. And when we saw that everything was working so smoothly, he picked up on the things I wasn't good at and vice versa.
Mint.
We're like, dude, we got to maybe try this out for real and build a business around it. And that's how Neighborhood was born. Mm-hmm. That's a very brief,
Yeah.
But
I had to ask.
so that's how I met him. But we went and traveled once during the pandemic. We went to Mexico, and we have this thing where we pretty much leave. We'll go somewhere 2-3 weeks, and we just go head down. So like, dude, we're in Tulum, one of the most beautiful places in the world, in my opinion, and we are spending 16 hours at a table. Just plotting, working.
Let's go.
Working on our structure. And people are like, oh, have a drink for us. Oh, fucking go get sauce, go to this place, go drink there, go do this. And like me and him are like, we're coming back more pale than we were when we left.
Tulum's a tough spot to do that, eh?
Dude, well, okay. Then that's the other aspect of it is we always wanted to be like, okay, can we go somewhere where there are so many distractions and literally block them out and strictly work? And so we did that once and went to Tulum. I think it was just over 2 weeks and in 2020, and we were able to do it. We didn't go out and drink once. We worked, 16-hour days sitting in our fucking condo in the dark, just like fucking hustling and prepping our business for the next stage and working on, MBH, the podcast, and how we were going to grow that. So that was the first thing. And then we did that again, maybe 6 or 8 months later. And at that point a buddy of ours was in Miami, and he's like, dude, come by. You guys are like an hour flight away. He's like, before you guys go back to Toronto, come see us, come check it out, whatever. And yeah, dude, we went out there and we got a taste of freedom. We got a taste of like what the world.
That was 2020. Like
this was end of 2020, early 2021.
Yeah, still same bullshit, really.
So Toronto was in their 20th lockdown, 5,000 boosters. We're like, okay. And meanwhile, we're in Miami, Florida, which is a 3-hour plane ride away. But the science is different. No one's following bullshit. They're doing what they want. Businesses are flourishing, right? And we go there and we're seeing what's happening. And then, we see how much we paid for an Airbnb for fucking 3 seconds. You know what I mean? We're there for 3 days. We paid 20 fucking G's for an Airbnb. We're like, all right, not actually, but yeah. So then we're like, okay, this place, this could be good, right? So we just started. So we stayed there for a few days. We went back to Toronto, but then we started speaking to a lot of people that we know that moved there. And just started getting a feel for what was going on. And as time progressed, bro, we just started seeing like more, entrepreneurs, more famous people, celebrities moving there, more entrepreneurs moving there, more corporations moving their shit there.
Yep.
And, we're just like, listen, if we want to get to, we want to reach the goals that we're looking for, this seems like the place that we have to go to.
That's the sacrifice, right? You gotta pick up and move sometimes.
So, which is tough, right? Because you have family and obligations, in Toronto. But at the same time, I always say like we have one chance at this thing called life. You know what I mean? So like if you're not doing, if you're not taking those risks, like the last thing you want, or I always see these videos of these old fucking people on their deathbeds, and they're like, oh, like what's one piece of advice that you would give, to your younger self or somebody, whatever. And it's just like, live for yourself, take risks, because the last thing you want are regrets. Like the last thing you want is to die with regrets. And so when me and him both had this, our, again, visions aligned, we're like, dude, this seems like the place for us. We started doing a little bit of research in the real estate market, right? So as we were talking off mic, we went and bought a house there,
right?
Strictly Airbnb rental, like, so that's just gonna make us some passive income, hopefully, God willing.
100%.
And then at the same time, we're like, fuck, we're gonna go out there, and we're gonna start podcasting out there and see what happens, and see if we can run it. And that's been that transition so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went out there for 7. Well, he's still there. I went out there for 7 weeks. I came back. I'm here just for a week in Toronto. But man, the growth in 7 weeks has just been
10x, bro.
It's been,
and I'm sure there's access to much higher quality guests, which we're going to get into shortly. But I think that transition, because what happened, guys, is Canada left, especially the business owners, took a brunt of this shit from these guys.
Everything.
And really what happened was it forced people to really improvise, adapt, and overcome. And I think that's what you guys did properly. You looked at the current situation as like, how much more can we, as entrepreneurs, as opportunities, as to put our effort forward, how much more are we going to do here? Yeah. And then I noticed also you guys started speaking more about this publicly, like, getting a little controversial for the libs over here. You know what I mean? Was that a conscious decision, or did it kind of happen naturally?
Oh, man.
Because I fucking love it, by the way. You know what I mean? Because there's not a lot of people that got the palinis for that. You know what I mean?
It takes a lot of palinis, but it, you know what, man? It didn't start on the podcast. It started more on our personal IGs. Dude, listen.
Throwing up stories and shit, doing your fucking thing. And then people are like, yo, I agree with you, but I can't fucking do it.
Well, actually, it started very negatively.
Oh, really?
Well, because, dude, so let's say March 2020, this shit starts. The world shuts down. Mm-hmm. I go through like a crazy shroom trip with some of my buddies.
And give you like...
And they were very, we'll say, quote unquote, on the conspiracy side of things.
Okay.
And so we're fucking grams and grams deep into a shroom trip, and they're opening my eyes to like some other ways of thinking.
Okay.
And a lot of it is obviously based on this COVID shit because we just got into it, and we finished. The shroom trip goes and does what it needs to do, and then I'd say fast forward to May 2020, so just 2 months later. And a lot of the things that they were telling me would happen, and like things that they were like trying to open my eyes to, I'm starting to see them more and more.
Yeah, bro.
And so I'm like, holy fuck, this is insane. And so May 2020, I started speaking out right away. And again, it was just Insta stories, me ranting, but it wasn't even really me attacking anything. It was more of just me being like, hey, this seems sketchy. This seems sketchy. We should just ask more questions.
Let's think about
we
this
shouldn't just blindly trust, CP24. You know what I mean? I don't know about you, but I don't trust Trudeau with my fucking daily decisions, right?
Of course, we can spend one full podcast on that, brother.
That's another story.
That's another story.
So I just started asking questions like, hey, I was asking people. I was like, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on that? And I was getting destroyed, dude. Just getting destroyed in my DMs, like, you're a fucking idiot.
Really, eh?
Dude, you're uneducated. You're a fucking
that's
uneducated Gino, lives in your mom's basement. You're
yeah.
fucking... Like, I was getting destroyed, bro. And
how do you respond to that?
Well, you know what? A lot of it was just like I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I'm like, dude, this is crazy. Like, you guys are trying to shit on me for just asking questions.
Yeah, and that's the narrative that's what we succumb to.
Yeah.
If you represent the opposing side for these people, you're this, that, this, and the other.
The crazy thing is, I wasn't even representing any side. I was just literally...
You were just asking questions.
I was literally just saying, like, guys, what are your thoughts on the masks? Like, do you think they work or not?
Okay.
I wasn't even being like, hey, bro, masks are trash. Don't use them.
Yeah.
I was literally just asking questions because I was trying to gauge what everyone, like, what the general consensus was.
100%.
And I was getting destroyed just for asking the question.
Which, brother, you see that with Rogan. What was he doing? Asking questions, speaking to everybody.
Yes.
And what do? They want to get rid of him. Why? Because he has more viewership, more clicks, and he's willing to have conversations with both sides. It's like, if you don't represent this and you don't listen, don't even ask me a question, because if you do, we're going to try to cancel you or some shit.
And that's what it was. And then as time went on, I kind of went right and was like, okay,
fuck you guys now.
Now I'm stopping to ask questions, and now I'm just gonna tell you guys my opinion, whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, unfollow me.
Yeah.
If you hate me, hate me. I don't really care. And when I started doing that and actually being like, these are my views on this, it switched up. It went from like, let's say 70% hate, 30% whatever, like love, I guess. And then when I started giving my opinions, it completely switched up, and then it went like 70% love, 30% hate, 80% love, 90% love. And then I think it just weeded out because people just unfollowed me if they didn't want to hear what I had to say.
All the cucks they followed.
The fucking cucks, pussies. And yeah, I mean, whatever, dude, listen, it's tough. Like, I lost a lot of close friends because of it. I lost a lot of, family members I don't talk to anymore.
Yeah, 100%.
Because of my views on it. But at the end of the day, I see I'm 10 for 10. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 100 for 100. I've been right this whole fucking time.
100%. And people need to understand that. Like, we don't share the same idea. You should be able to be you should be able to civil about that. But it doesn't seem that they take it personal. Why? Because it's their identity.
Correct. I was having this conversation earlier with a buddy of mine. Now that mask mandates are lifted and this is lifted and that's lifted. Here's what it comes down to. People's whole lives have been based around this narrative for 2+ years, right? And for them to like essentially be wrong.
Yes, exactly.
It becomes an ego thing.
Exactly.
It's like, it's easier for me to just continue in this narrative than admit that I was wrong or that I was fooled.
Instead of like just going, okay, let's just chalk it up, let's move forward.
Yeah.
They don't. They want to stick with it.
No, stick with it. They stick with it. Now it's like, fuck this guy, whatever. You know what I mean? And so that was that. And then I think that started happening. And then it got to a point where I turned to Ernesto and I'm like, listen, dude, like, I think the city needs some sort of news outlet other than Rebel News. Shout out Rebel News.
And now they're fucking, by the way, I don't know if you saw, Trudeau implemented a thing where the fucking
piece of shit.
Yeah, so he implemented, every media source needs to get a license now, and Rebel News, a license that the government has to approve.
Yeah, there you go.
So Rebel News didn't get approved for it, obviously.
There you go. Yeah.
So, like, what is that, guys? That's called censorship, you fucking idiots. Come on.
That's called, and that's the beginning of communism.
Exactly.
Which is a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
but,
100%.
But
it's worth mentioning. But
no,
you were saying,
But so then I think I said to him, like, bro, I think we got to just, because, me and him were both being vocal on IG. And we're like, fuck it. Like, let's bring this to the podcast. And I think the first time that we did that, we had Roman Baber on, legend. And that was cool. And that was a big jump for the podcast because A, was a politician.
How'd you secure that, by the way, if you know what I'm asking?
Just through a friend of ours who was helping him connect with business owners and stuff for, like, I guess, some campaigns that he was running. So we reached out to this friend and we're like, hey, like, if he's in it to come on, like, we'll work around his schedule, 100%. Whatever.
That's the way you got to do it.
And he ended up inviting us to Queen's Park.
Yeah, I saw that. So you guys did two with him.
We did two with him.
Yeah.
So he invited us there, which was like just a game changer because we're fucking walking into like Queen's Park with fucking podcasts coming. It was really cool. Yeah, it was a vibe. And he really, shout out Roman for even giving us the opportunity to come and interview him. And shout out him for what he's done. But that was the first time that we really got like political, I guess you can say, on it. And then from that point, we realized, hey, this is what people want us to talk about. Mm-hmm. So we're going to kind of try to intertwine it with our business because we don't want to move away from who we are.
100%.
But at the same time.
But it is kind of who you are because it's what you feel.
Correct.
Right? It's
and
what
like,
you resonate with.
Exactly. And listen, I love Canada. I love Ontario. I love Toronto. This is my home, like no matter where I go. And so it really just pained me to see where we were. Mm-hmm. And if I could be a beacon of light or a beacon of, hope for anybody, why wouldn't I try to be that? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where we started getting very vocal. And it was interesting because, a lot of our mentors honestly advised us like, yo, don't talk about this shit because you have a business, you have a brand, and it's all doing great. It's it's growing. Like you don't want to fuck that up. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, you got to stay true to who you are. And bro, it takes courage. It takes a lot of courage. You got to stay true to who you are, and that was really the defining factor in all of it. The deciding factor was just, listen, if someone doesn't want to work with neighborhood because we're talking about this bullshit that's happening in our country on our podcast, then we don't want to work with them either. Exactly. And I don't want to say to our surprise, but to our surprise, dude, our business 10x. Exactly. Because all of the business owners and entrepreneurs were thinking the same thing we were. I know. And they were all reaching out to us saying, man, mad respects to you guys for not giving a fuck what other people think, putting your brand, your business, your reputation on the line to say the things that everyone's scared to say. Exactly. And for that reason, we want to work with you. 100%. You see how it works? So it just ended up, blowing everything else up. And that's kind of how we got into it. And we haven't really slowed down because at the end of the day, I don't want to go too deep. I know that's not what this podcast is about, but just because these mandates are lifted, we're not out of the water. No, we're not at all. And brother, we could talk about anything on here. A couple casuals, a couple beers. I just want to make sure. Yeah, 100%, brother. We're not out of the water. I've been pretty vocal about it too from the beginning. Good. So I've always everybody knows that about me as well. Good. But there's real reward in having courage in your voice. Yes. And I think that you can explain that too because you've seen the progression and you started with this questioning. What do you guys think about this? And then then what I think happened, bro, is a lot throughout this pandemic is a lot of people who weren't necessarily political got more interested in politics because they realized that it directly affects you. Yes. And a lot more guys like us, like blue collar guys or whatever, just a couple beauties are going to figure it out and start getting involved with politics. Yep. And that's one of the main things that I think is the positive of it because we can't just let these libs just go absolutely nuts and just completely take over like they are. Well, you know what? First of all, I wouldn't even call them liberals. They are radical. They're radical. So classic liberals, in my opinion, is like people who represent free speech. It's a classic liberal ideal. Yeah. It's probably where we sit, which is like pretty central, like centralist. Yeah, centralist, exactly. Maybe even lean a little bit left. Yeah. But we're progressive in a sense too, 100%. But the problem is that it's more going down the authoritarian aspect of things. I feel, and that's one of the main things that I really enjoyed about the trucker convoy is that I think it revamped the Conservative Party. Yes, because you see our buddy Pierre over there. Yep. He's going to be the leader of the Conservative Party, which he's a real blue collar conservative in my opinion, and he's going to have a real race against Trudeau. But you know what though, you said something good, and I actually want to touch on it just about like. The the reward of speaking your mind
Yes,
and
yes,
speaking
yes,
genuinely.
yes.
And I think that a lot of people need to understand this. And this, what I'm going to say doesn't just, it doesn't just apply to people with a podcast or people with 5,000 followers on Instagram. This is for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you can't speak openly and you can't say the things that you truly feel,
Mm-hmm.
who are you?
Mm-hmm.
You aren't yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If every time every time you're stepping into a conversation and you're trying to say the right answer.
Exactly, bro.
Then your life becomes a test.
Nailed it, bro. It's like the person who lies consistently. You're gonna lose consciousness of who you actually are, and I feel like that's similar.
Dude.
Because you're right, man. Every time nowadays, especially, oh my God, bro. Anytime, forget about having a podcast because this already is too intimidating for the majority of the people.
Yeah.
But a basic conversation around your Thanksgiving dinner, a basic conversation with your own intimate, like your immediate family or your significant other or their parents, whatever it may be. People are fucking terrified.
Well, dude, would you imagine a world, especially in Canada, where 5 years ago you'd be having to think about what you were gonna say at the dinner table with your fucking cousins, your congenials, bro? Like, that's fucking insane, right? And so I go back to it. If every conversation you walk into, you have to think about what you're gonna say, your life is a test.
Yeah, you're acting, bro.
You're acting, and that makes you not genuine, and you're not being who you truly are. And what is life if you can't be who you genuinely are, right? And so that really, I watched there was a Kanye interview, and he said word for word, he said,
You saw the doc? How fire was that doc?
We could talk about that.
Oh,
That's another story. But he said something in an interview, and he said, maybe not word for word, don't quote me on it, but he said, if you go into every conversation thinking about how you have to talk or how you have to speak, your life becomes a test. And when did you have the most anxiety? In school, on test day.
I saw that. I saw him talk about that, bro.
And
he's a genius, bro.
Dude, legend, genius. And I saw that, and I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna speak freely.
Yeah.
You want to try and cancel me? Cancel me, bro.
Which, by the way, what you're saying is not like anything to be canceled about.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah, exactly.
It shouldn't be,
but,
and it hasn't to this day. But I'm just saying, like, that's kind of that's my outlook now, and that's why I go back to saying, whether you have a podcast, whether you create content, whether you have IG, whether you're talking to 5 people, 1 person, your buddy at work, your mom in the kitchen, like, you need to be able to speak freely about your opinions, your views, and we as people need to be able to accept each other regardless of if we agree on everything or not.
And freedom of speech is the fundamental ideal between sorting through your own thoughts and learning. That's how you learn. How do we learn? We talk with each other. We have a conversation. Yes. And then what I'm able to identify maybe, oh, you know what? Yeah, I think you were kind of right about that. But you need freedom of speech to be able, that's the mechanism that moves us forward.
For us to have freedom of speech and learn from each other, there will be conversations that people are offended by.
Yeah.
But that is it just is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
And you need to be fucking grown up enough to understand that and realize that you're not going to enjoy every conversation, but try to learn from it.
And bro, I truly fundamentally believe this all resonates with the universities. It's a result of the universities with safe spaces, brother.
Starts in the schooling system.
That's what it is. So you look at things like safe spaces, brother. Life is not safe, eh? I don't know if you guys know, but it's
recently
not,
no.
Especially, it's not safe.
Yeah.
You're gonna encounter things that are gonna make you feel uncomfortable. You're gonna encounter things that are gonna make you feel vulnerable. You're gonna encounter things that are gonna offend you.
Yeah,
that's a part of life. That's the reality of it.
And yeah, man. And so that's really been the driving factor of why we took the podcast a certain way, why I've taken my personal brand, and I know Ernesto has a certain ways, because again, if we can't be who we want to be and say what we want to say, then who are we?
Then fuck it. Yeah. That's the same mentality I have.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you bringing up those are some fucking fire points right there, bro. And I think it's worth people at least having an open mind to.
Yes.
Think about that for a second, guys. We're on this planet for X amount of years. What are you gonna do? You're gonna keep your mouth shut because so and so you're worried about that girl you used to talk to, what she's gonna think, or your cogino that you see every 3-4 times a year, what they're gonna think.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, speak with conviction and with respect, and I think it goes a long way. It's all about how you say things sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. Speak with conviction, man. If you go in confident into a conversation, maybe the other person won't agree with you, but because you're so confident, they'll at least listen.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what you're looking for.
And the dialogue's the most important thing.
100%.
The transition of words, that's what it is. And
Yep.
it's very powerful. So then you guys made that decision to kind of have those conversations, and I really think it generated a buzz. Would you agree? They really started to increase viewership.
Oh, dude, 100%. So when we saw that, well, we were seeing it first on our IGs. Bro, I'm putting up a rant on my story. It's getting fucking 300 shares, like crazy numbers, like numbers that I was never getting before. And I'm like, okay, well, whether it's good or bad, I don't know what they're saying when they share it.
Fuck it though.
But it's getting more people talking. And so went from that, we transitioned that to the podcast, started talking about it on the podcast, and then viewership just went like this.
Yeah.
Right? This was after the Kyle podcast, but maybe it was like this.
Let's go.
So we started going, and we're like, yeah, we're gonna run with it, right? If this is what people want to hear, fuck it. We got a lot to say. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we kept rolling with that. That was kind of the vibe after.
100%. And then obviously you guys dropped the merch. Shout out to the merch. You know, wrap the fucking merch. I saw that shit's fresh, bro.
Thank you.
Looks good. And I definitely think it's worth thinking about putting that fucking logo on our shirt, bro.
It is. Oh, dude, we've been getting blasted. We're like, how the fuck did you make a piece of merch with your logo on it? We're like, fuck.
That's fire.
All right.
That's fire.
All
that's
right.
fire. But then from there, obviously with the move to Miami, a lot of good shit in there, bro. And then obviously the Kyle podcast. We have to get into the Kyle podcast, man.
Of course.
Let's talk about that a bit. Like I said, if anybody's watching, I want them to run up to your channel, listen to your guys rant. You know what I mean?
But I'll give you that.
Touch on it a bit. Talk us a little bit of juice, and then I want to get into some in particulars because I'm curious too. I've been a fan of the NELK boys too. You know, I think Kyle's the Drake of like. Drake puts people on, and Kyle's kind of doing the same fucking thing, bro. And the city was fucking buzzing when that shit happened. We all saw you guys down, bro. Fucking in Woodbridge, people like they were down at Market Lane, like fucking Italy won the Euro Cup. Everyone's honking, like, bro, you see the
my God,
you know what I mean?
Fuck, that's crazy.
It was fucking exciting to see, bro. And like, just talk us through it a bit. Like, how did it happen?
Sure.
What happened? You know what I mean?
I mean, before I get into it, I gotta shout out Kyle, bro. Like,
let's go,
legend, man. The guy, what he did for us, and just by coming on the podcast was already something like, you know, we would never have imagined that it did what it did for the channel. But yeah, I mean, it kind of started with we had 905 Shooter,
right? That's right.
There's
the building blocks right there.
We had their old videographer. He actually reached out to us and was like, hey, like, love what you guys are doing. Love the podcast. Like, I haven't done a podcast in a couple of years, but I'd like to come on. And like, if you guys don't mind having me, I'd love to come see what you guys are up to and hop on the pod. And so that was the first thing. We did that. And I remember telling Ernesto after that podcast, like, dude, like Kyle follows him. So I think that like, if we chop up some good reels for him and maybe he posts one, you know, Kyle's going to see it. Mm-hmm. So like, hey, there's like the first step in the door, right? Mm-hmm. Foot in the door. And so we did the podcast, whatever. Sure enough, Nino, Jason, my guy, he posted it, showed us so much love. And I guess Kyle had seen it from that.
Yeah. And it's one of the things he complimented you guys was the production.
Yes.
It's worth isn't it? Like, it's worth the investment.
So worth the investment.
Yeah.
And then they did a podcast with Nino. I guess they had come back to Canada, and they did a podcast with Nino. And I didn't even know this was happening, whatever. And I'm driving home one day, and I get a message from one of my buddies being like, "Yo, they shouted out the MBH podcast on the Full Send podcast." Mm-hmm. I'm like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about?
He
like,
thought he was breaking your balls.
He's breaking my balls because I couldn't even understand what they would say. Yeah. Right. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because he didn't tell me it was like a 905 Shooter episode. Okay. So I'm like, why the fuck would, like, this makes no sense. Yeah. He's like, dude, go to this episode, go to this time. Yeah. 35 minutes and 33 seconds or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I go, and then, yeah, sure enough, I see it's 905. So I'm like, okay, that's maybe where they started talking about it. And yeah, like Kyle was like, oh, I saw you did like some podcasts here. I saw that local Toronto podcast, whatever. You know, he said, "Are those guys brothers or whatever?" And he's like, and Jason's like, "No, they're not. They're business partners, friends, whatever." Da-da-da. And then he just made like the slightest, and it was like so faint. He's like, "Yeah, I liked it."
Yeah,
and that was it.
The seed, bro.
And that was it. And I'm like, okay, that's the second building block. Like, okay, so now I know he's seen us, and not only did he see us, like he made a point of bringing it up to 905 Shooter, and he said he liked it. for me, that was like, okay, cool. We're going in the right direction.
That in itself is so, it's such a, like, I think Kyle understands that little compliment means the fucking world.
It meant the world
to creators, you know?
It did. It really did. Especially like the fact that I'm just a massive fan of theirs. So that really was big for us. And then, yeah, fuck it. From this point, we're going to just keep going at it and pumping content. So I think maybe it was like 2 weeks after they shouted us out on that podcast, on the Full Send podcast. I was all stoned on my couch Friday night. We ripped the podcast earlier in the day. Got home Friday. I'm like, I'm just going to fucking unwind, smoke a nice doob. And I'm all stoned. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just DM him. Like, if he sees it.
Shout out to Mary Jane, just sparking ideas.
You know what I mean?
Eh?
Sparking the fucking ideas.
Go. Let's go.
No pun intended. and Mary Jane helped me out. I fucking was like, I'm just going to DM this guy and see what happens. And if he answers, great. And he probably won't. But whatever. Like, what do I lose? I don't lose anything. It didn't cost me a fucking dollar.
Nothing.
And what does it cost me? My ego if he doesn't answer. Like, I don't have one. I don't give a shit. And so, yeah, I DM him. And, man, the next day, it was like a Saturday or whatever. I get a notification, Kyle, whatever, DM, message request, whatever. I'm like, no way, dude. I open it, and it was super short and sweet. It's like, I'm down, bro.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, sorry. I should say what I DM'd him. I DM'd him, and I'm like, hey, man, like, big fan. Would love to have you on the podcast. I think it'd be great for the city. Like, the city would love to see you on our podcast.
That was a big part of that message, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of had to make sure that, like, he saw the value, too.
It was the delivery that you brought it with. If you would have just went in differently, it might have not done.
Hey, bro, reach the podcast.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay.
No,
but
you
I
did
was
it
like,
proper.
Dude, big fan. Love what you're doing. Would love to have you on our podcast. I think the city would love it. And that was it. And he responded. He goes, I'm down, bro. And then I was like, holy shit, bro. I don't even know how to respond to this. So
let me think about this for a second.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to think about it, clear head, whatever. And then I start going at it with him. And I'm like, oh, dude, like, basically, like, hey, we were actually planning to come to LA, which we weren't. I was just completely making this up. I'm like, dude, we're down to come to LA. We were planning to come to LA from these dates anyway. So if you're there, like, we can film it there and this and that. And he's kind of just like, he kind of like calmed me down a little bit. He's like, yeah, you know what? I think it'd be cooler if we did it in Toronto. Like, I think it's like a more of a hometown vibe. So when I'm in Toronto, let's run it.
Let's go.
I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I'm not going to be pushy, whatever. That's cool. When I notice that he's in Toronto, I'll shoot him another message.
100%, yeah.
But at this point, I'm realizing, I'm like, okay, now for sure he's watching us. Like, for sure he's seeing what we're up to. And I'm not saying watching us our every single move, but we're really on his radar now.
Yeah.
And I have access to his DMs, which is great. And then, dude, so we just started going harder than ever. I went to Ernesto. I'm like, dude, we're doing 1 episode a week. We're going to do 2 episodes a week now. We're going to go harder, dude.
So you guys doubled it up.
We started doubling up. Cost us more money, more time, more effort, whatever. But I'm like, I don't give a fuck. We have to do this. And so we run that for maybe about 4 or 5 months, 6 months. And I notice he's back in Toronto. I see on his story. I reach out. Hey, bro, notice you're back in Toronto. Let me know. No response. A couple days later, I see he's still in Toronto. Hey, bro, see you back in Toronto. Blah, 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 whatever.
Is this like replying to a story? Or are you like
I'm replying to his stories.
Okay, perfect.
Because I'm noticing he's there, right? And I know that, like, now because we've DM'd, I have access. And he'll get the notification that I've DM'd him. And yeah, so I hit him twice. He doesn't even read it. I'm like, okay, perfect. No fucking problem. And then again, not trying to be pushy, just like I'm like, whatever, we're gonna continue grinding. You know, no matter what happens, we're building this podcast. We're gonna blow it up. 100%. It is what it is. Yeah. A couple months go on. Again, we're pumping content, doing our thing, and we noticed that he puts a tweet out. Ernesto's like, "Yo, Kyle just tweeted like, hey, what podcast should we blow up? Like, what podcast should we sign to Full Send or something along those lines?"
Yeah, I seen it. I remember that.
Yeah, and so we took that, we tossed it on Instagram, and we just were like, hey, everybody, like, if you have a fucking Twitter account and you fuck with us, go there, respond, blow it up, let him know he needs to, like, you know, fuck with us. He needs to fuck with the MBH podcast. And, you know, like, our fucking loyal ass audience at that time, maybe we had like 700 subscribers or something. He almost all of them went and just like blasted this. You got Kyle, get on the MBH podcast, MBH podcast. Yeah.
Did he see it? Do you know if he saw it?
Well, then here's the thing. So that happens, and everyone's blowing up his Twitter, tagging us. I'm thinking like, this has to work. Like for sure he's gonna reach back out to me. Day goes by, 2 days go by. All of a sudden it was like a Sunday night. I won't forget it. Sunday night, 5 p.m. I'm chilling. I get a notification.
This was the recently one, right? This Sunday recently?
No. This is even before.
Okay.
So we're still in Toronto, whatever. I get a notification. Yo, what's your number?
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay, let's fucking go. We're gonna move this shit to text. Like this is popping. Okay, let's go.
Secure the number. Let's go.
Let's fucking go. So I'm like, all right, give him my number. Day goes by, 2 days go by, he doesn't text me. Third day again, I get a text message. Hey man, it's Cal Forjard. Love what you guys are doing. Been watching it for a while now. Love your production, this and that, blah, 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 blah. Like, I really think we could help grow this thing.
Wow, man.
What would you guys think about moving to the States, filming in Orange County, this and that, da-da-da-da. Oh, I'm like, bro, whatever. Whatever you need.
Just tell me.
We're in it. Let me know. And he's like, okay, cool. Like, I'll get back to you, but, like, good to know that, like, you're interested or whatever. I'm like, dude, you don't like, of course I'm interested.
I was like, you don't gotta ask me twice.
Yeah, you don't gotta ask me twice, dude. And so that happens, and then 1 month goes by, 2 months go by.
Oh shit.
3 months go by, nothing, right? Or I think it was like 2 months, 2 or 3 months go by.
Feels like a year though.
Felt like forever.
You know what I mean?
It felt like forever. Because I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, bro, this is it, da da da, whatever.
But then it's back to the grind. That's just the
then,
cherry
like,
on top.
No matter what, we're like, dude, whatever happens, whether it does or doesn't, just head down, pump out episodes, do what we have to do. Like, we do not stop, no matter what.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then we're like, fuck it. We head to Miami. And I should say that within those 2-3 months of silence from him, I had texted him like 2-3 times, just being like, "Hey, bro, like, let me know what you need from me."
Yeah, exactly.
Like, blah blah blah. Like,
and fair enough, you did the right thing.
I'd really love to push this forward.
Yeah.
And just like, dude, straight R bombs, like nothing. Yeah. Okay, fine, whatever. Keep going. Get to Miami or fly to Miami. Now, like things are really starting to move because we're getting some bigger guests and people are just fucking with the fact that we left. Like we said, what we said we were gonna do, we did.
People respect that.
People respected it, and that really helped our viewership and whatnot, and that was growing. And then, yeah, like I said, we were in Miami for I think 4 or 5 weeks before the episode, but in those 4 or 5 weeks, I sent him like another 2 or 3 voice notes, and I was just sending him voice notes, being like, "Hey, dude, like, listen, I know how fucking busy you are. Like, believe me, I can already understand that." And that's cool. I totally understand. Like, just, again, we're eager to push this through, blah, blah, blah. Like, let me fucking know whatever I can do to make this easier. You just let me know. Just, and like, when someone listens to it disappears. So he was listening to them and they were just getting dusted.
Yeah.
And I kind of said this on my podcast with Ernesto. I just put my ego aside.
Yeah, you did
and
the
I was
right
like,
thing.
I don't give a shit, man, because I really have nothing. Like, what do I have to lose? What is the absolute worst thing that can come out of this? He can post on social media, which I know he would never do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, showing me like looking desperate in a sense, like, but I didn't care. I was just like, I want to make sure that this guy knows that I will do whatever it takes to make this happen.
And there's something that you mentioned when you said this is that closed mouths don't get fed.
Shout out Kanye. Speaking of the documentary,
is that what he said in there?
So there was a part of the documentary
Jay-Z,
with Jay-Z, and they're talking about the track, and he goes and Kanye rips this like unreal verse, and he comes out of the booth, and Jay-Z goes, "Thank God, like, you blew up my phone, because or else you would have never been on this. Closed mouths don't get fed." And so we had watched that, and then I think like the next day I went back on like hitting him up. Like, I didn't care. I was like, fuck it. Like, I don't care how stupid I look. Like, I'm completely removing my ego, and I'm like, I will make this happen somehow. And so
that's what it takes, though.
And that's
bro.
what it was.
That's
bro.
what it takes.
And it was just message after message and no response. And then, dude, it was like a fucking Friday night. No, I lied. It was a Wednesday night. Me and Ernesto were taking a drive down South Beach, just a little manifesting drive. And my phone vibrates. I look at it, Cal Forjard. I'm like, let's go. Oh my God. What does he want? Like, I'm pure nervous to open it because I'm like, what's this going to say?
Were you driving, bro, at the time?
No, Ernesto was driving. Thank God. I would have crashed the car. And I open it, and he's like, yo, whatever. Like, I'm back in Miami for one night. I land at like 6 p.m. if you want to you want to do the pod tonight, let's do it. And it was like, holy fuck. I'm like, bro, turn the car around, get me back home right now. Like, we need to fucking figure this out. We're hitting up the studio. Shout out HGAB, the studio that we've been using in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah. I called the front desk. They're like, yeah, we're all booked out for the day, blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, fuck, we're doing like, I'm calling like numbers off Google, freelance videographers, We got to a point where we had one guy, well, while we were waiting for an answer from the owner of the studio that we were using,
right,
on if they would stay open late night for us. While we were waiting on that response, I had another guy ready to go. We were gonna pay, I don't know if it was $4,000 US, $5,000 US, for him to come to our condo with the setup and shoot this for an hour. Like, we didn't give a fuck, whatever.
And that was just the filming.
Just to film.
That's all he was gonna do.
Yeah, for like $4 or $5K US. And I was like, whatever it takes to make this
100%.
happen, we were gonna do it.
Yeah, you got to.
And God forbid, thank God, HGAP Studio hit us up. They're like, yeah, we'll stay open for you guys late night. Hit Kyle, told him what it was. He's like, all right, bet, I'll be there. And that was it, man. And that was kind of the background on it. So, this whole process was 6 to 8 months of a little bit of back and forth, and then a lot of just like cold,
unknown.
It just went dry. And it's a testament to just like, again, the saying, closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah, that's a beautiful saying.
If you want something, just be persistent in it and remove the ego.
Yeah.
And just put yourself in a vulnerable position to make something happen. And sure enough, like I put the ego aside, and we got the episode done. And man, what it's done for the channel alone, and
overnight, 20,000 plus subscribers, right?
Dude, yeah, we're pushing, like, we were close to, I don't know if we're at 30 yet or close to it, but overnight it was like 20,000 subscribers. The video's at like 1.5 million views now, or close to it.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, it's helped us obviously leverage bigger guests.
100%.
And then again, I have to shout out Kyle for this. Like, not only did he come on the podcast and take his time to like fuck with a small local Toronto podcast, but he also made sure that like the promo for it was absolutely out of this world.
Dude, he posted it on everything.
He posted it. NELK posted it. Fucking Steve will do it.
I saw it on Snapchat and shit.
Snapchat.
TMZ was fucking going nuts.
TMZ, like, and this was not just like them all picking it up. This was him telling his whole
fucking
team,
G, bro.
like, you guys got to post this shit. Dog, Dana White posted it.
My guy.
Dave Grutman posted it. So it's all these things where it's like he went above and beyond, right? And then, obviously since then we've been in contact, going back and forth. And
that's what I was gonna ask you. Have you been talking?
Yeah, we've
chatting?
been talking to him. We've been chatting back and forth a little bit after, and a lot of it was just like me just being like, we hit 500,000, we hit 700,000, and he's like, yeah, man, like, it's so cool to see this and that, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then just being like, yo, listen, like we like, he said something along the lines of like, our audience is very critical of everything we do. He's like, I've read through the comments.
All positive. I've seen them too.
He's like, dude, 99.9% of them are positive. There's like 2,500 comments or maybe more at this point. He's like, they are all positive. That's very impressive.
It is.
Considering how critical our fan base is. And, again, hearing that from a guy in his position, you feel great about it.
100%.
Like, this is amazing.
And you even got to give a shout out to Gambles too, because I think that was a big part of it too.
How can I forget?
Yeah.
Shout out fucking Jimmy Gamble. That's my guy. We share the same birthday, so that's my fucking dog.
Oh, so it was his birthday just the other day too. Yeah. Let's go. Let's fucking go, Jimmy.
And yeah, you know what? Well, when me and Kyle, we were texting. He then followed me and Ernesto on Instagram.
Yeah.
And then a week or two later, Jimmy Gambles followed us. Mm-hmm. And, again, I just reached out to Jimmy being like, hey, dude, like, love seeing you on, like, the NELK videos.
He's hilarious.
You're fucking hilarious.
Hilarious.
And then, dude, he was so cool, so down to earth, just like,
Canadian boys, man.
Well, that's what it is, right? There's a lot of, we come from the same place.
Yes.
We're cut from the same cloth, right? And so he was really cool with us. And then, when we hit him up, he's like, hey, I'm going to be in Miami this day. Let's do the pod.
Let's do a podder,
And
yeah.
so him coming on was big because he's very close with Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then, we fucking picked him up. We brought him to the podcast.
I heard.
And then we drove him home. And on the drive home, he's just like, yeah, guys, like, I know Kyle was, interested in you guys and whatever, but really like, I'm going to talk to him because like, you know, you guys were great. I loved it.
That's
and whatever.
amazing.
And you know, I'm sure he'll see the podcast and whatever. And yeah, I think that was a big catalyst. I'm sure he probably watched the Jimmy podcast.
Yep.
And then was
or
like,
at least seen clips, 100%.
Seen clips of it. And then, no, I think he watched the whole thing, he said.
Amazing.
In person, he told us.
Because that's his guy, you know, and he's like seeing him go. He's like, yo, let's go. You know what I mean?
For sure. And
when
I
do
think
you see Jimmy on podcasts?
Well, you never.
Or even Kyle.
Ever, never. So I think he saw that and he's like, okay, cool. Like the way they handled it with him was cool because, of course, like Jimmy Gambles is a guy involved with NELK that, you know, he gets roasted and shit like that.
Which that's what I wanted to say. You mentioned the comments, and I know that he
Yeah.
was getting roasted a bit for the comments too. So it's a testament to you guys that.
Well, that was, you know what it was? Yeah, like, and we wanted, I think they saw how professional we handled it with him and how much respect we showed Jimmy rather than trying to get that, like, that moment and capture him saying something stupid or trying to make him say shit that he doesn't really want to say. Like, we kept it chill. And I think he saw that and he's like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, maybe it is time for me to, like, just at least hop on their podcast.
I'm here. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I think it was sort of like a little bit of like an audition in a way.
Ah, there you go. It's a building block, isn't it?
Well, I was telling Ernesto when we had left or the next day, I was like, dude, I noticed that, like, he was very observant.
So you think he sent Jimmy in there? Go check out the scene. You let me know, brother.
Yes, that 100%. Well, that, but even when he was on our pod, I noticed that, like, when me and Ernesto were talking, he was just very observant of the way that we move.
Oh, okay.
And then I think that even followed up after when we went out with them, because then that was like
that's a whole other story, yo.
That was a whole other story. But yeah, and then, you know, it's. Dude, I can't even explain it, man. Honestly, I'm forever grateful for him and the team. They were so welcoming. They were so cool with us, and you know, they're not stupid. They know Kyle could have gone on any podcast.
100%.
It didn't have to be ours. He
100%.
you know, he could probably get himself on Joe Rogan if he wanted to.
He probably will one day. 100%.
I'm sure he will
if he wanted to. Yeah.
And you know, he came on the NBH podcast, bro. Like, what a fucking G.
And you've seen that in the comments too. A lot of people were like, "It's good to see that Kyle's fucking with like the like local guys, and you're really putting the city on." Because I mentioned to you earlier, is like that's what Drake kind of does too.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Drake really puts on people, and I love to see that because we don't usually see that in Toronto. Unfortunately, I feel.
Man.
Like a lot of the time, people are not really quick to back somebody, or they're quicker to say a hateful comment than a positive one.
I don't know why Toronto's like this, but you're absolutely right. And I realized this more after we left and went to Miami. In Miami, bro, like whether you're from Miami, you're an outsider, whatever, everyone wants to work with each other and everyone wants to help each other grow. In Toronto, bro, it's like everyone, like no one wants to see each other succeed. And I don't understand that, bro. Like I don't understand that mindset. Like, why not help each other? I come on this podcast, right? If I can get you 5 subscribers, that's amazing.
Which worth mentioning. I hit up Anthony fucking right away, bro, and I appreciate that. I told you that 100 times, man. Coming by and like having a conversation, like, you know, it's really an amazing thing because, like I just mentioned, we don't see it as often as we should, bro.
Well, I hate that, and so I look at it and I'm like, dude, if I can do the opposite and I can provide some value to you or your listeners in any way, like, why the fuck wouldn't I want to do that? Because that is what I always wanted other people to do for me.
You're paying it for it, bro. That mentality will take you very, very far, bro.
I hope so.
It will, bro. Trust me when I tell you. And it because I think that it's inevitable. I think that good things happen to good people, even if maybe in the interim, maybe there's not, maybe like a speed bump, this and that, but there's lessons within there too. Eventually, it pays for it. But yeah, that's not why somebody does something good, right? Yeah. It's just obviously who you are represents who you are as an individual. Yeah,
man. I always say, like, you got to put yourself in the shoes of where you were, you know, a year ago. Mm-hmm. So let's use this podcast as an example, right? Like, if I look back at my podcast a year ago, mm-hmm. and I had the opportunity to get a guest who may just be on a little bit of a rise right now, mm-hmm. and that guy or that woman took a chance to come and show me love, mm-hmm. like, why wouldn't I want to do the same thing?
It's amazing, bro.
It's you know, it's just like be the person that you wanted to help you. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? If you're in that position, you find yourself in a position to be the person to help someone the same way that you would have wanted help if you were in that same position. Like, be that person, bro. And that's the type of energy that I wish Toronto could get back on a little bit more, man. Stop.
We're gonna change it now, bro. We're gonna fucking change it.
Yeah, I hope so, man. Because, like, at the end of the day, go to Miami, move to the States, do this, do that, whatever. Like, bro, you know, we're in Vaughan. I count this all as Toronto,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
GTA.
It's GTA. I see it all as Toronto. Like, I see us all as one big family. And man, like we it's still my home, bro. And no matter what. And so I will continue always to try my best, whether it works or not, to show love to any other people that I can and help in any way that I can. Like I said, right? And so I just wish more people thought that way, but
yeah. And you know what? Like, and you look at the way, I think it pays. I think it pays eventually, like, to just, it's real rewarding intrinsically to be able to know that you're consciously putting effort to try to help another person. And that's like, you and Ernesto went down there. Couple Italian bellows had to go down there and take over, bro. That's what had to happen.
That's it, bro. What do you want?
What do you want? You guys were people that probably were hating. Now what? Couple Italian boys had to go down there and take over. Forget about it. You know what I mean?
No, you know what? That's been that. Yeah, it's been a great experience down there.
It's amazing, man.
And yeah, I mean the response has been great, man. The response has been great since that Kyle episode. Like, a lot of people that just maybe weren't listening, now they tune in and stuff. So there's been a lot of positives about it, but a couple bellows, you know what I mean? What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's what it is. And you know what? The authenticity, brother. The authenticity was big.
That's been big. That's been big. We've just been trying to keep, again, it goes back, we can take this back to the whole free speech thing, but bro, if you're not authentic, you're not being who you truly are, and you're not speaking, your truth, then who are you? People
appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be somebody that you're not.
That's it.
And it's, at the end of the day, you have to put yourself in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
You have to be vulnerable. And like, I always had trouble with that. Even before I started this podcast, I would think, what would this person think? What would this, did you experience that too? Or did you just not give a fuck always?
I mean, I would be lying to say that I never was, let's say, self-conscious about what people may think of things that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the podcast really helped that. And then again, being open, being outspoken about all this bullshit in the country, really push that forward, and you get to it. But like, listen, still, there's still moments where I read a comment or I read a response to, like, on YouTube or on TikTok or whatever, being like, these guys are fucking idiots. They sound like idiots. That, like, you take it personal to a certain extent, but then you have to just remember that this is one of 5,000 people that are watching you, one of 100 people that are watching you. And so when you start to do the numbers, it's like, all right, 99% of the people fuck with me, one doesn't. And that's the reality of life. You can't please everybody.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't please everybody. So especially when you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position, doing podcasts or creating
anything
content.
Anything creative.
Like, you have to remember that you're not going to please everybody.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. And the bigger you get, the bigger, the more, the bigger the group of haters gets, but also the bigger the group of people who fuck with you get.
Yes.
So it just, it always evens out.
It's like a good negotiation with yourself to say, okay, I may receive immediate, uncomfortability, but in the long run, it's better.
Yeah.
It's better.
That's what it is, man. And it's been growth, dude. And just getting in front of a camera like this, like, it's I think it's helped me grow a lot as a person. Would you say the same for you?
100%, bro. I feel like I became a better communicator, that's worth complimenting you as well. Like, you carry the conversation very well.
Thank you.
Is that something that you developed, or it's something that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I've always been a pretty easygoing guy.
Keep it chill. That's the idea behind couple casuals.
That's it. You keep it chill. Couple casuals, bro. And I've always tried to pride myself in being able to walk into a room and, carry a conversation with anybody. That's always been like something that I've always focused on.
Right.
But it becomes a lot different when the lights and camera are on and the mic's in front of you. Right? So it's like, no matter how good of a speaker or a casual conversation guy you thought you were, when the camera and the lights and the mic's in front of you, everything changes, but you grow, right? Again, like, same thing. It's like, you take 1,000 free throws, you're going to be better than you were when you took the first one. You run 100 podcast episodes, you're going to be better than you were in the first one.
You get more comfortable with each one.
More comfortable, yeah. And then you realize, just like, you start to lose that, like, I guess, anxiety or thoughts of like, oh,
there's the pregame jitters. Thinking? You got the pregame jitters for everything.
You know what, man? It's so funny. I was talking about this with Ernesto. Like, dude, I had 0 pregame jitters with Kyle.
Come on, bro. That's what I wanted to ask you. What was that moment before, like the leading up? Were you just chill?
So we locked it in. Like, we officially locked it in. It was like 7:45, and we were shooting at 9. And I think Ernesto was a little nervous. I shouldn't speak on it because I don't know for sure. He looked a little nervous.
But he's human, bro. I would be thinking like, okay, I wanna. This is a good opportunity. But
dude, I got in the fucking shower, took a nice cold
bath. Put on
some
tunes or what?
Couple tunes, get me fired up. Nice cold shower, And I just knew, man, I've been waiting for this for a long time.
That's what I think it was. Yeah.
And so I was just so ready for it. I don't know how to explain it. I was just so ready for this conversation. I've watched every fucking video they've ever put out. I'm a huge fan of him. I've followed him on Instagram. I see what he's up to. And I just knew, like, I knew that this would happen. I didn't know when, but I knew it would. And so when the time came, I was just prepared.
Yeah.
That's no other way to say it. And I just wasn't nervous. And then, great job on him to pull up and be so chill.
Yeah. He's one of the good old boys, man.
Dude, he walked in and they were prepping the studio for us. And so we just, like, sat around at a table and, like, they whipped out a couple. They brought fucking cold Happy Dads.
How were they? Good?
Amazing.
Still haven't tried one because they don't got to make LCBO so much fucking.
They're coming.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Yeah.
So fucking good. And, dude, they pull up. He cracked a few of them. We just start chatting about back home and shit like that. Like, and it was so chill. So then by the time we actually got into the studio, mics were on. Everything went on. We had already had like a 15, 20-minute convo.
Just warming up.
We warmed up. And then we were just like, I was just like, all right, well, let's get into it as if it was one of my boys. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that I really hope translated on camera.
It did.
Is that it felt like we knew each other. Yeah. Even though obviously we didn't, but that was kind of the goal, and I hope it translated.
And it did, and that's where the positive comments come from, because it did get received well. Yeah. Okay, because people saw that, okay, you guys are just a couple chill boys just having a good old conversation. You're interviewing, but you're not fucking interviewing. You know what I mean? You're having a conversation. I think that's the big distinction to make, guys, is when you're having these. If you're in podcasting or you're listening to a good podcast, I think the conversation is a conversation. It's not so much of that. I'm here just like fucking, Yeah.
Up, down, look at your phone, look at your notes.
You want to try to make it as natural as it can be. But brother, before we go into the last segment here, because we're a little bit, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's go.
But what's next for MBH, brother? Like what you got anything cooking that you can share with us, or?
Yeah, I mean, listen, what I would say is this: stay tuned.
Okay.
Some very interesting stuff is going to come very shortly.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep kicking it.
Yeah.
We're going to keep running the podcast. Obviously, like I said, we always leverage our past guests to get bigger and better guests.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to see a lot of we have some cool guys lined up for Miami until we're back home in the summer. And then we're gonna come back to Toronto and do a little tour around here.
Let's go.
Maybe I don't know if it's gonna be full Canada or just Toronto, but got some really, really interesting stuff coming. Not too much I can say, unfortunately.
No problem.
But,
let's go.
But yeah, stay tuned. I think we're maybe weeks out of something very interesting. So
okay, let's go. It was inevitable, bro. At the end of the day, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like this whole situation kind of opened up the doors for you guys.
Yeah.
And big salute to that. And speaking of salute, the last segment on Couple Casuals podcast, I call salute, bro. Okay. So what I do is I give an opportunity to the guest to give a little salute to the viewers. You're Italian, bro. You know what I mean. You give a little salute. So just give a little salute to the good old boys, the good old ladies, and we'll take it from there.
I'm gonna leave it off with this. First of all, thank you for having me,
bro. Thanks for coming.
Salute to you. Salute to Couple Casuals. If you guys made it this far, you didn't subscribe yet, hit the subscribe button.
Run that up.
Hit the notification button.
Let's go.
Like the video. Comment. If you have any questions, I will respond in the comments to whatever the fuck you want to know. Let me know.
I appreciate that.
I'll come in and comment. But a salute to all the viewers. A salute to all the creatives. Anybody who is pushing for, to reach a dream or a goal, has ambitions that are maybe not easy for others to understand. No one's going to understand your vision until it becomes reality. Remember that. And keep grinding. No one is going to get you to where you want to go besides you. Don't look to your friends. Don't look to your family for motivation. You got to motivate yourself every single day, day in, day out. At the end of the day, if you know what you want, you know the path to get there. Keep grinding. Keep doing your thing. It will come. It will happen. And to finally leave it off, if anyone has any questions for me about anything and I have some sort of answer for you, my DMs are always open. I try to answer anything. So hit me up. Let me know. I'd love to chat with anybody that made it this far. Yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Salute, brother.
Salute.
Thank you so much. That was fucking fire, bro.
Thank you.
Some words of wisdom from Anthony.
And one more thing. Salute to good health, more money, and money buys happiness.
Let's fucking go,
Cheers.
baby.
One more time.
Let's go. Guys, that was a fucking banger pod, and I really appreciate you, bro.
Thank you for having me, man.
Appreciate you guys sticking around. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Couple Casuals, couple beauties. You know how we do. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Do all that good shit. And tell them where to find you, brother.
Oh, man. You want to find me? IG, my personal is @Anthony Sorella. And then listen, follow the pod at the MBH podcast. That's IG and TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And then Money Buys Happiness podcast, MBH podcast, whatever you search in YouTube, you can find our channel there.
Yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe, like I always say.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
yes.
Appreciate
Like,
you guys. Salute. Love you. Nobody else. Ciao.